on this edition of the Retro Wrestling Rewind. Alex G and David Fine take you back to 1988, June 8th, to be exact, Miami, Florida. The James L. Knight Center, as Jim Crockett Promotions proudly presents Clash of the Champions 2, Miami Mayhem. You want to know what Alex G and David Fine's true, honest, shoot opinions of the show were? Well, you're going to have to stick around and find out. Hey, Mr. Engineer Man, why don't you play that fancy Clash of the Champions open? Because the show begins right now. Welcome into another edition of the Retro Wrestling Rewind. As always, I am David Fine, alongside my tag team partner, the true Long Island IZ, Alex G. He is still in the quarantine. He has a shelter in place. He can't go anywhere. He has to be the IT person for his wife. He can't go to work, but he's still getting paid right now. So that's good. So Clash 2, Miami Mayhem. It happened June the 6th of June the 8th, 1988. It was at James L. Knight Center in Miami. It was weird. Before the show even started, they had the dignitaries. Did you ever, they came up to the James L. Knight Center. Did you ever see that show with Lyle Alzado learning the ropes?
Fuck yeah, I have. I have it. So I have, I believe, 14 episodes of that show. It is fabulous. It's a shitty 80s sitcom, but it has wrestlers in it for no apparent reasons. So my favorite episode is when Lyle Alzado hurts Jimmy Garvin.
Yeah, I can't remember all the episodes, but I do remember that was actually I mean, for, like you said, for an 80s show about wrestling, it wasn't that bad. I mean, it was, he was a high school teacher or a middle school. He was somewhat like he was a school teacher.
He was a high school
teacher who was a wrestler at night. I thought it had some. Had a lot of great WCW appearances by wrestlers. I mean, it wasn't bad like you said, but of course he was in attendance. They had a bunch of other dignitaries.
My favorite is Frances Crockett.
Yeah,
I love Frances Crockett.
Boy, she had it. She was 100% no. She's probably 100.
Here's the cool thing about Frances Crockett, right? She never got really involved with wrestling all that much. She was too busy being the general manager of the Charlotte O's the entire time. They actually sold that team like right before this, so she didn't have much to do after that. But she's like the head of the Crockett Foundation now, and she seems like a really cool and at the time a very fancy lady. Now, as we get through the program, you'll see this contract signing on a yacht. So that's the yacht of the owner of the Chicago Blackhawks, which the rumor has it she was dating at the time, which has not yet been confirmed by anyone, but that's the rumor that was going around, that she was dating the owner of the Blackhawks at the time, and that's why they were able to use this yacht for this angle. But Frances Crockett seems pretty cool. Now, her husband, John Ringley, was supposed to take over Crockett Promotions when Big Jim Crockett passed away. Unfortunately for John Ringle, he was too busy cheating on Frances and got fired and thrown out of the family. So that's when Jim Crockett Jr. takes over Crockett Promotions.
Yeah, I mean, it was the funny thing is about the kind of fast forwarding to the signing of the contract for Luger and Ric Flair at the Great American Bash in July. It was funny. Tony Schiavone was the reporter. He threw to himself on the yacht, the Black Hawk, and it was funny after the contract signing. The Horsemen are celebrating outside, doing something, and it's just Tony looked kind of awkward. But I thought it built the intensity for that match between Flair and Luger. I mean, this show was the go home show. I mean, I thought Clash 1. I thought that was really good show. This is, I mean, it's not as good as.
It's a good show
It's a
overall.
good,
I mean, the
yeah.
matches are fun. You have this one big angle that they're doing, so it's perfectly acceptable, especially for a go home show. Now, I do enjoy what Ric Flair is wearing on the yacht because he looks very dapper and the red blazer, and you have like Barry Windham who's just in a polo and I guess jeans, looking ridiculous. But the rest of the horsemen are on this yacht. JJ's there, Francis Crockett's there, Jim Crockett's there. And it's a nice little, it's a good way to really kind of showcase that belt too, because that belt was already front and center. And Luger cuts a very baby-faced Luger promo, which is extremely difficult for Lex because at the time he's naturally very aloof and kind of arrogant. So trying to get him to cut a babyface promo like this is very hard for him, but I think he did an adequate job cutting this promo.
Yeah, I'm not a big. Luger. I don't know. I mean, I'll always be a Flair fan, but I mean, I'll be a Flair fan till I die. I mean, he's been telling everybody to to stay inside and stay at home, so stop spreading the coronavirus. And his wife, his current wife she is what they would say all the way live. I mean,
we all love Fifi.
Yes, I love Fifi the maid. It's just
I wonder if she still wears that costume from time to time.
I don't know. I'm not sure. I wish. But, before we start to, talk about the first match of the night, I'm going to pull some audio from the Clash. We're going to see if it works. I am enamored by the ring announcer for this program. Let's see if you can hear it and how it sounds.
Ladies and gentlemen, this first match of the evening is scheduled for one fall with a 20-minute time limit for the United States Heavyweight Championship. Introducing first, in the corner to my right, the challenger. He hails from Marietta, Georgia, weighing in at 228 3/4 pounds, Brad Armstrong. His opponent is accompanied to the ring by the Executive Director of the Four Horsemen, James J. Dillon.
I love how he says his name at the end.
Sweetwater, Texas, weighing in at 261 pounds, the newest member of the Four Horsemen and current undisputed United States Heavyweight Champion, Barry Windham. One fall, 20-minute time limit for the United States Heavyweight Championship.
Yeah, I mean, Barry Windham. I thought his name was Barry Windham, but it's just.
Well, if you're reading off a card, because the way it's spelled, because it's spelled a little silly.
But no, yeah, I mean, Brad Armstrong. Do you think he was underrated, or do you think he was exactly how he was supposed to be? I mean, or do you think he just did not get he had the Armstrong curse? He didn't get the major push that maybe he should have. But, I mean, your thoughts on Brad Armstrong?
A lot of people will say that like Brad didn't have the charisma or personality to be a top-level performer in any major promotions. I don't think that's entirely accurate. If you see his Continental stuff and even the stuff early on in Georgia, the stuff at Mid-South, it peaks through a little bit. Now, he can never really translate his behind-the-scenes locker room personality on screen because, the Road Dogg, when you see the Road Dogg's personality on screen, he's very similar to Brad. If you watch any of his shoot interviews and what have you. Unfortunately, he was able to get that across on screen. There was a time that Brad Armstrong was probably top 10 in the world in terms of work rate and in-ring ability.
Yeah.
Super nice guy. I think everyone loved Brad. He was always employed, so he was always being used somewhere. Now, was he being used at his full potential? Probably not. I think in a creative way, you can make use of him, much like a Dean Malenko or a Chris Benoit. Those guys were giving much more opportunities throughout the 90s and early 2000s than Brad was given in the 80s. And some of it may have to do with size. But if you see early Brad Armstrong, he's fucking jacked, and he's fantastic in the ring.
Yeah, I mean, he was – I mean, I'm not were you surprised that that he did win the U.S. title? I mean, but this was during the big push for Barry Windham. I mean, he had just
Barry Windham is the best wrestler in the world right at this time.
yeah.
So there's not a better wrestler on the planet than Barry Windham in the summer of 1988. He just did a turn on Luger. He just won the U.S. title. He's on the upswing. He's part of the Horsemen, and right at this period, he is the best wrestler in the world. And this match is fantastic. Good way to open up a show.
Yeah, I mean, it was good. It was. I
mean, I love that finish. That finish is fantastic.
Yeah, it was. What are your thoughts on Barry's move to get the pin, the win, and with the claw, with the glove? I mean, that was shades of his old man, correct?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, he'd used the claw off and on, especially when he was like Blackjack Mulligan Jr. So that's a move that's been in his repertoire for quite a while. His go-to finisher was the superplex. He stopped using it because he wants to look cool with the black glove, and he puts the claw hold, and it's a good maneuver. I don't know if I would have necessarily gave him that maneuver, say 1988 though. It's a little behind the times. He would probably need a more spectacular finisher. I would have kept him either with a superplex or figure something out for him that's a little bit more spectacular. But there is legacy there that you'll want to use, much like the Von Erichs who used the claw as well. So, I'm not in love with the claw personally. If it's better for a heel, which he is at this point, so Barry wouldn't necessarily use that as a babyface. But it's interesting. I do like the black glove gimmick, and again, Barry is flawless at this time. But he is fantastic.
Yeah, and speaking of things that were not flawless, after that match, we went to an interview with the returning Rock and Roll Express. Where were they returning from?
AWA.
And it was funny. They were walking in, and I think it was Robert Gibson who tripped. That guy cannot fucking talk. I mean, he's had a raspy voice his entire. I mean, maybe that's just how his voice sounds. But Ricky Morton is the number. I think he is so good on the mic. I mean, he's gotten a little bit, in his age. He's not as high strung as he was back then because. I mean, he's probably still getting the same amount of tail as they would say back in the day, but
he's probably not on cocaine like he was back then.
I know, but it was interesting. It was with Bob Cottle interviewing them, and at the end, I just noticed this. I mean, I don't know why this just struck me as funny. I paused it right now. I'm looking at it. We have Robert Gibson when Ricky Morton is talking right before the end of the promo with. It may have meant something else, but he had for some reason he put the Four Horsemen symbol up. I'm not sure what that meant. I think it was done unintentionally. I just thought that was kind of funny. I mean,
I thought it was funny that someone grabbed Morton to swing him over a little bit to look at the camera.
Yeah, it was probably Jackie Crockett.
So. You see an arm coming out of nowhere. Yeah, I mean, the Rock and Roll had left. They were sick and tired of Dusty shenanigans and tomfoolery. It probably hurt them overall, so it probably wasn't a great decision. They went over to the AWA, which where they were at this point, having matches with the British Bulldogs, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah. They were in and out. They were never as popular as they were in terms of their original run for a major promotion. Like they would come in and out every once in a while. WCW eventually did split them up, and you had the Richard Morton type deal. They would get back together, and it's Smokey, and they've basically been together ever since. So, the thing about the Rock and Roll Express, they never stopped wrestling. So, their latest return to the NWA wasn't necessarily a comeback. They were always been wrestling regardless. So.
Yeah, I mean, it was just the most recent one that people knew about. I mean, like you said, they've been wrestling on independent shows for years. I mean, they've been doing shows and whatnot. But the next match we had, the Fantastics, Bobby Fulton, Tommy Rogers. They were the current reigning and defending United States Tag Team Champions. They're taking on the Sheep Herders, Luke Williams and Butch Miller, with the flag bearer, the great Rip Morgan.
The Fantastics are underrated for sure. I don't think they get as much love or praise as the Rock and Roll. But the Fantastics were awesome. This is a really good match. And the Sheep Herders are not necessarily known for their in-ring ability and work rate. especially when they're the Bushwhackers. But as the Sheepherders, even still, this match is fantastic. It's off the charts. Like, I really do like this match. It might be my favorite match on the card. Again, it's always staggering to see the Sheepherders and understand what they eventually became into the Bushwhackers. The Sheepherders are bloodthirsty, hardcore. Like, they were like ECW guys. They were proto ECW type guys that put you with everything. There's blood and guts, and to see them as the good-natured Bushwhackers, it's jarring, to say the least. Although they probably made more money as the Bushwhackers.
Yeah, I mean, I've never been a fan of the Bushwhackers. The Sheepherders, I just think, I've said this before, and I think we've spoken about this on the show before, that back in the NWA and before they went to WWF and got rebranded as the Bushwhackers, they didn't really have any restrictions. I mean, they just were crazy. I mean, they had much...
Like, they're in the same vein as the Moondogs or Abdullah the Butcher.
Yeah.
So you would bring them in for a while to get over your top babyface tag teams. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, really, because those guys are very dangerous. Some sort of heel manager, whether it be Gary Hart or whoever, would bring these type of guys in, or someone would bring them in for revenge to help destroy the babyfaces. So they're in and out of a lot of territories. So they would spend a lot of time, across the country in various territories. They wouldn't necessarily stay that long, because once they stay there for an extended period of time, they would get exposed. But they're like an Abdullah type figure, but a tag team version of that Abdullah the Butcher, I would say.
Yeah, I mean, I think they were great, but I'm sorry, I'm not really watching along, but I'm watching it a little bit while we're talking. The match, there was another interview after the Sheepherders match with fucking Steve Dr. Deathboy.
Oh my God, what is he wearing?
He's wearing like a white tuxedo with white gloves. Was he the valet? I mean, or was he working at like a restaurant?
Never, ever give Dr. Death Steve Williams a microphone during a clash.
No.
It's a running theme of Clash of Champions. They always give Dr. Death a microphone, and he always has the world's shittiest promo. Yeah. And it's just on clashes, because there's other promos. I don't know if because it's live and the other ones are taped. Like, they're not this bad. Now, Steve Williams is not necessarily known as the world's greatest talker. He is not like The Rock or a Roddy Piper by any stretch of the imagination. But just on these clashes, it's extra awful.
Yeah, I mean, and extra awful. And, I mean, what the hell? I mean, the tuxedo, that's maybe one thing, but the white...
Because they were dressing everyone up for this event.
Yeah, so it was fancy.
The horsemen everyone was fancy. You see the limousines. That's stuff that the WWF had never done.
Yeah.
Up until I think the first time we saw like limos was with Vince, but you never really saw limos like that before.
No, I mean, it was definitely extra special. Since
they put him on commentary, dude. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, I know. It was definitely something special. But you know what's even super special in this time of everyone staying at home and not being able to go anywhere, except in Georgia. Y'all have a shelter in place in the state of New York, correct?
Yes. So we can only go out for essentials. So supermarkets, essentially, and that's basically it for the most part. So no one's really going anywhere.
Yeah, I mean, the shelter in place in Georgia is you can go exercise, you can go to the supermarket. If you're one of the essential employees like myself, you can go to work. But we were driving around doing a bunch of stuff the other day, going, to and fro before came back to the house, and there were so many people out walking. So I guess the shelter in place is totally different than in other states. But if you have a strict shelter in place, or even if you don't, you're out walking, and you want to listen or watch probably the number one YouTube show in the entire planet, the YouTube show that's making so much money that Alex G doesn't even have to go to work because he makes so much money off that. How do people find it, and what in the hell are you talking about now, and what are you doing on your YouTube channel?
Are you referring to the 65 cents I made last month?
Yes, that was pre-taxed, right?
That's pre-tax, yes.
Oh God, I'm sorry about that.
So, what you guys want to do? You want to go to Retro Wrestling Games Presents on YouTube. That is my YouTube channel. We currently have 391 videos currently up. Our latest video was a video game review of the Neo Geo Classic 3 Count Bout. So this was an arcade game that it might be the hardest wrestling game in the history of wrestling games, period.
That's a shoot?
That's a shoot. Like, most people are not getting past the second stage. That's it. That's the reality of that situation. In addition to that, we have our critically acclaimed AWA 1990 project. We are up to episode 3. Episode 4 should be released sometime this week. It's when we fantasy book and rebook the AWA 1990 to make it a major player in the world of wrestling once again. So we go through who's on our roster, what direction are we taking the company in, what kind of moves we're going to be making in terms of merchandising and production, who's going to be our agents, our office. We go through the whole gamut, and we talk about 1989, 1990, 1991, 1992 professional wrestling in a whole, with some other stuff kind of mixed in there as well.
I mean, it did sound like you have a lot of good content up there. I mean, it's one of those channels that I kind of stumbled into before we started our little endeavor, and I have to admit I'm addicted. It's like a drug.
Yeah.
I cannot stop watching it.
It's crack.
It's crack. It's whack. And hey, folks, keep on watching it and subscribing. And it's funny. Most people don't like negative comments. Alex doesn't care, do you? You just want people to interact with you, to give their opinion. If they think you're an idiot, tell them. Say, hey, I don't agree with your opinion on whatever you're covering.
It's funny because the majority of the comments on my channel are positive, which I find extremely strange, because when I started this process, I thought I was going to get killed. Like, I thought people are going to be trolling me. I thought people are going to be calling me an idiot, and that has not been the case at all. There was one person who disagreed with me on a review of WCW Nitro once. That game is still shit, by the way. So that one person, that game is shitty. I don't know what to tell you. I know you like it, but fuck. What do you want from me?
Yeah,
but yeah, leave a comment, ask questions. I get back to all my comments. I respond to everything. If you agree with me, if you don't agree with me, if you have a better idea, I would love to hear it. Get involved. Get involved. And some gentleman left a comment on I think episode 2, and he wanted us to bring in Ahmed Johnson. And I actually did a segment on what was Ahmed Johnson doing in 1990, and would he be a good fit for the AWA? So if you leave comments, I will refer to them on the show. So I know a lot of people like that. I don't ignore any of those unless you're like doing those spam comments or something like that. But other than that, you guys are good to go. So leave a comment, hit the like button, subscribe. There's no reason not to. And what else are you watching? You sure as fuck not watching WrestleMania? That's for fucking sure. So watch this show.
Oh my God,
I have no comment on that.
Yeah, I watched the first match. It was a tag team match for the WWE Women's tag team titles. Yeah,
I know motherfuckers like pieces of the show. The show had one good match on it. The whole thing had one good match on it.
What was that?
That was Seth Rollins and Kevin Owens. That was the only good match on the entire WrestleMania.
Do you think that your opinion would have changed and people's opinion would have changed if it had been in front of 70,000?
I mean, that's not fair, because I don't think they would have done what they done if it was in front of fans. I don't think that would have been the case. So I can't say.
Yeah.
The show probably would have been better, obviously. I mean, a lot of people say, based on what's going on, it's the best they could have done. I don't buy that necessarily. That Orton Edge match was 1,000 minutes too long. The Boneyard match is fine. I don't hate it. I don't like it either. And the Firefly Funhouse. All right, how could I explain this? The Firefly Funhouse. I absolutely hated it. Hated it with a passion. And a lot of people, you're a hater, or hey, wrestling has passed me by. And maybe it has, and maybe this shit's not for me anymore. I will concede those points. But this particular, it's not even a match. This, whatever the fuck you want to call it, this segment, all right? this segment, it feels like the kid that was in your middle school who used to make fun of you for liking wrestling booked this match. I felt insulted almost. Like, I felt this match was making fun of me personally. Which is not the case, obviously, right? Because I'm not an idiot. I get it. But that's how it made me feel. Like, this was making fun of me. And at this point, I don't have no time for WWE. I have no time for the empty arena bullshit. I have no time for it. I don't. And there's nothing like, there's nothing left there for me. I love a lot of their talents. I can go through a laundry list of talented guys who are on that roster who I think are fantastic. You can start from AJ Styles and you can take it all the way down to Samoa Joe. And there's 20 guys on that roster that I love, that I think are the bee's knees, right? But this particular match, literally, I felt was just a middle finger to me. Like, fuck you. And it's the equivalent of this. Okay. It's the equivalent of, as a kid, I love Transformers, right? I love the cartoon. I love all the toys. And then I sit down to watch the modern incarnation of the Transformers movies, which those feels like they literally just spit in my face. Same thing with G.I. Joe, the whole gamut, right? And there's a lot of people out there that love these matches, and I get it. You love those matches, right? But the fact that I don't like them and you do means absolutely nothing. Your opinion is meaningless to me. Your opinion is not going to change the way that made me feel. Just like me not liking that particular match is not going to change the fact that you like that match. Nothing's going to change here. I can't make you dislike it. If I can, that means your opinion wasn't worth having anyway. Because the fact of the matter is, me not liking something does not lessen the enjoyment for you. Now, I'm not going to sit there and be on Twitter for hours on end ripping the fuck out of this match, because that doesn't even deserve my time. So I'm just basically going to move on from this, and we'll see 6 months, 8 months, if the WWE has anything worthwhile going on. It is what it is. If not, I don't watch the weekly shows anyway at this point. I would always go to a live event if it came to my area, because house shows are really, really fun. I'm even debating not even doing those. It's not me being mad. It's not me being like, I'm going to cancel the WWE Network. I canceled that shit a year and a half ago. Why? Because I have everything that's on it. It's just me being like, you fucking just insulted me. Like, I'm not going to come back for more. So, for those of you who enjoy it, please continue to enjoy it. I appreciate the fact that you are into wrestling, you like wrestling, because I feel that all wrestling fans are my friends. But I'm not going to, I'm not going to give you the finger. I'm not going to insult you for liking this. I'm just going to quietly walk away.
Well, that was a great answer, my friend. But
the only answer I could actually give.
Hey, if that's the only answer you can give, that was a good answer. The next match we
have,
and
I know I'm a hypocrite. I know I'm a hypocrite, because I've came on this show and said that I enjoyed the fuck out of Dungeon of Doom. I've been on this show and I'll say I love RoboCop. I thought that was the bee's knees, and I get the fact that I'm a hypocrite. I understand this. Doesn't change the fact that I do not like this.
Yeah,
just because I like something else doesn't mean I have to like this.
Yeah,
and I do like I do like some shenanigans and tomfoolery in my wrestling. I like a little silliness, but your top 3 angles better be serious as fuck. And we're not there yet. So.
No, we're not. But something that was really serious, the next match of the evening had Ronnie Garvin, with Precious, taking on the Varsity Club, Rick Steiner, and Mike Rotundo, with the Games Master Kevin Sullivan. This whole Precious Kevin Sullivan angle.
I still don't understand it. I don't understand. It's been 30 years. I don't get it.
You don't? Yeah.
No, I don't like. All right, so what's the story here? Kevin Sullivan was with Precious before she was with Jimmy.
I think so.
And then he has some stuff on her, but he wants to punch her in the face. And I don't understand anything that's going on. The varsity club's involved, which that angle is weird all on its own. Doesn't make much sense. Because why would these college dudes be hanging out with Kevin Sullivan? They never really explained that all that well. It'd be different if Kevin had some sort of mind control over them, which he didn't. And then the Garvins, like Ronnie's about to go like, he's 30 seconds away from turning on Dusty anyway. So that's where we're at right now, and they're both being gone shortly. They're not long for this world anyway. So this is the setup for the Tower of Doom, which is something that just because I just went on this rant, like, hey, this is something we may want to try to bring back. The fucking Tower of Doom. See if you can do it better. I doubt it though.
Yeah, I mean, you were saying about that. They had like a render, an artist rendering of what the Tower of Doom is going to look like. I mean, what were your thoughts on the Tower of Doom match? I mean,
it's a piece of shit. This one is the best ones that they've done. Not the original Towers of Doom match was a world class thing. So they were promoting the Tower of Doom. They called it something else, I believe. I think Triple Cage or whatever. And then Dusty's like, no, we're going to do it, and we're going to do it first. And they put out their Tower of Doom first. You probably should have let World Class do it to see how it works, because it doesn't make any sense in terms of a match. Now, this one's better, obviously, than the Hulkamaniacs versus the Alliance to end Hulkamaniac, or the Mega Maniacs. It was Savage and Hogan versus 90 people. So they had Z-Gangster in there, though. So you did have the double cage one. They did it again with DDP. They threw a cannon off the top of the cage.
Mm-hmm.
So it's never worked out well because it's so bizarre.
Yeah, it was. But overall, what were your thoughts on this match? At least, I know you're not a big Jimmy Jam Garvin fan because he was such a rock star. But
I like this incarnation of Jimmy Garvin. I don't like his Freebird incarnation.
You a big Hands of Stone Ron Garvin fan?
I can be.
Not as world champion. Not as world champion. Nope.
Like, he has good matches with Flair. He had good matches with Valentine. Like, he's a legitimate dude. I don't know what I would do with him, though. Because he's so... I guess you would make him a heel. Like, I don't know. He's so bizarre. And he does, like, the punches and stuff, the Hands of Stone, but that's such a heel thing anyway. I think the WWF had to do him open palm or some shit because it's ridiculous. I don't know. What do you do with Ron Garvin in the late 80s? I don't know. Not a whole lot, I guess.
But it was funny. Speaking of weirdness, Kevin Sullivan. I was watching the debut edition we were talking about last week of Dark Side of the Ring about the Chris Benoit tragedy, and of course Chris Benoit and Woman and Kevin Sullivan. That's just that a whole. Which Kevin Sullivan? I know you've said this before. You were a big fan of his in Florida, correct?
Absolutely. So the devil himself, Kevin Sullivan, in Florida with his minions going after Dusty Rhodes is fantastic. I do enjoy that. I also like weird heel announcer Kevin Sullivan who would wear sweatpants and tuck him into his cowboy boots. I enjoy that Kevin Sullivan also.
Oh God, yeah. I'm a big Games Master fan. He's a brilliant guy. Have you been watching Dark Side of the Ring?
I have not watched the Benoit one, if you're asking. I refuse to watch it, but I did watch the New Jack one.
Oh my God, New fucking Jack! Holy crap, that man, he would just kill you if you looked at him wrong. But I've been told that I'm not sure. It's kind of like the Virgil thing where he's kind of living the gimmick. He may be a badass motherfucker because I have a buddy who wrestled with him in a promotion and he said he was legit badass, but not as he kind of lived up the angle and to the fans and everything. But I wouldn't mess with him. Stabbing somebody, throwing somebody off a scaffold, and he intentionally tried to throw him on the floor, but he didn't throw him hard enough.
That was an XPW show, and what do I always say?
Never watch XPW.
Do yourself a favor. Never, ever, ever, ever watch XPW.
Isn't that the next show we're looking at?
No, it's literally the worst wrestling.
Speaking of that, I am going to ask you at the end of the program, folks. I know you hate when I do this, but I'm going to give the booking sheet to the great Alex G, and he will be telling us which show we'll be covering next week, but that'll be at the end of the program. The next match we had, the man who really lived the gimmick because he changed his fucking name to Nikita Koloff, took on Al Perez, the Latin sensation, with, I think, probably the second greatest manager in the history of this great sport, Playboy Gary Hart.
You put him above Cornette?
No, actually, no. I mean,
You put him above Bobby Heenan?
Well, Bobby Heenan's the number one.
Okay, so Cornette's number 2. You put him over Paulie Dangerously?
Yeah, I
Okay.
do. I mean, Bobby Heenan, but Cornette, holy crap! I mean, that guy. He was just great. I mean, he's still great. I mean, he's got a great mouthpiece. I mean, yeah, but Nikita Koloff. I mean, boy, like I said, a man who really, really, really. I mean, most of these guys back then, you know,
You can tell it's going to be shitty because Nikita has hair.
Well, yeah. I mean, and I was watching some of his early promos, and just recent promos before the show. His Russian, I'm not sure if it was an actual Russian accent. It was terrible if it was. He just said the exact same things. I mean, I was a big fan of Nikita pre-Flat Top, back when he was back when he was with Uncle Ivan. And
Okay, so you don't like him as the Superpowers?
Oh, I loved him with him and Dusty. Yeah, fuck yeah. But no, anytime you see, like you said, a Nikita with hair, it's going to be a terrible event or a terrible match. But Al Perez, I mean, thoughts?
He should be in a stable with Jim Duggan and Shawn Michaels, and Zeus should be all in the same stable.
Is that a nice way of saying he's terrible, or you think he with Zeus?
What does Jim Duggan, Zeus, Al Perez, and Shawn Michaels all have in common?
I don't know.
You know, they can look at me with one eye, and they can look at you with the other eye.
Oh, they're cross-eyed. Are you trying to say our friend Hacksaw Jim Duggan is cross-eyed?
I don't think he is anymore.
Yeah, well, I mean, he
got it fixed. Shawn Michaels needs to get it fixed. I don't know what the fuck his problem is.
I mean, he needs to pray to. Well, Shawn needs to pray to Jesus somewhere because he's real religious. But is that
and maybe get some minoxidil for that hair.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's yeah.
It's gonna look like you very soon.
Yeah, and Al Perez, he was 1957, so he is the current. He is 62 years old, so not sure what he's doing now. But yeah,
I liked Al Perez. I thought he could have been something cool, but he never became anything.
Well,
you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
You look at him, his work is pretty good. He's all right on a promo, not the best. He's a really good look about him, but no, he doesn't become anything.
Well, yeah, I mean,
ever. Like, he had some runs, like, he had a run in Dallas, he had a run here, he had a run. Yeah, I get that, but I'm sorry. Other than me and you, like, no one's talking about Al Perez today.
No, but I mean, I know we, when we go into long form about Al Perez, because I know we're probably having another show about him. Joking, he was one half of the Mid-South Tag Team Championship with Wildcat Wendell Cooley.
We love Wendell Cooley, by the way.
Yes, I do like a Wendell Cooley. Yeah, I mean he was. Yeah, I mean he did have tag team championships with Manny Fernandez, Paul Orndorff, and a couple other people. But yeah, I mean he's.
Do you think he's Seth Rollins' father?
Yes, I do. Well, Seth. I mean, the Monday Messiah. Or
first of all, they look identical. Second of all, like, I can be a douche about him. Like, I don't know if Seth Rollins knows his dad all that well. I don't know. You don't know.
Yeah, wow.
I'm pretty sure it's Al Perez.
Yeah, I mean,
if I was Seth Rollins, I would tell people Al Perez is my dad.
Yeah, I mean, it could be worse. I mean, you could, I don't know. It could be, you could say you're Alex G's son, but
good.
I mean, you could, but that would, but Gary Hart, I mean, he was, he managed some great wrestlers. I mean, he he wasn't bad. I mean, he was like I said, third, behind Bobby Heenan, Jim Cornette. But yeah, I mean, I thought he was. I mean, he led his men to championships. I mean, so I mean,
Yeah, he did fun. He was a good mouthpiece. He's been around forever. Great booker too. He's the one that manipulated the Freebirds Von Erich angle in Dallas. He's always I like the stuff with the Great Muta. He always had Kabuki with him. Like he gave him some freaks and some geeks and some monsters. He'll be okay. I like how he calls Ric Flair Ricky Flair though. He's the only person that does that.
oh, Ricky Flair. Yeah, I mean, he was. He was definitely. Yeah, he was. Do you think he would go over well now?
Gary Hart?
Yeah.
I think anyone that has the ability to talk will get over it.
Yeah, I mean,
right off the bat, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't matter who you are. I mean, Paul Ellering was good. I mean, he was. But I mean,
Paul Ellering probably got over as a wrestler today, more than he did back then.
Yeah, I mean, I was a big Paul Ellering fan. Back whenever he wrestled, it was, I mean, with his blonde hair. I mean, it's
Yeah,
it was definitely interesting.
He's the home of the footlong hot dog.
Yes, he is. But before we get to the main event, it's funny how we didn't talk about the
big angle of this show.
The big angle
is
of the show.
Fucking Lex Luger getting obliterated by the Four Horsemen.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fantastic. I'm pretty sure, I'm 99% sure that this is the first thing I've ever seen in terms of the NWA WCW. I think this is the first thing, because this is what I remember. I remember the Horsemen beating shit out of fucking Luger and Luger wearing that tuxedo. So I'm like 99% positive this is the first like WCW thing I've ever saw when I was a kid. So like Luger gets beaten up. That's where he gets like the staph infection in the knee and is in the hospital. And then again, it's all lead up to this bash where everything is set up for Luger to win at the bash. Unfortunately, he does not. And he is wrestling's biggest choke artist. So he fails in the biggest matches.
Yeah, I mean, we're talking about the main event. It's for the tag team titles. The champions Tully and Arn with James J. Dillon taking on Sting and the American Dream Dusty Rhodes. And the shirt that Dusty Rhodes is wearing, his tie-dye shirt. Ooh, man! Well, of course, it was the '80s, so of course it was.
Dusty's over still. He's on an ascension, and I love like pre-knee injury Sting. Because pre-knee injury Sting is super fucking athletic. And unfortunately for Sting, when he does win the NWA World title, he is coming off that knee injury. He's still rusty. He's not having as good as matches throughout his first title run. And it takes him a year, which rightfully so. It took him a year to finally get back to anywhere near what he was prior to that. But Sting here is still in his prime. That vertical leap is fantastic. He's energetic. He's young. You can make an argument for Luger in '88, which is the right move. You can also make an argument for Sting in '88. The fact of the matter that they fucking really, really, really stretched this out. The next generation of stars. They're the guy that finally beat Flair for good. They really, really, it took too long. And by the time they felt Sting was ready, which I thought he was ready in '89 or even late '88, he gets hurt, and your promotion's fucked because you guys waited too long.
Yeah, I mean, I thought Sting, the first clash with Ric Flair. I mean, I thought that was
that made him, and then they didn't do much with him after that.
No, and then he became the Crow and all that kind of crap.
Well, he's become the Crow for like another fucking 8 years.
Yeah, I'm a big bleach blonde hair, surfer looking dude, Sting. That's just, I mean. I think if he ever comes back to retire, he should come back as that.
Yeah, I see that.
Yeah, I mean, but overall, I mean, what were your thoughts on this Clash to Miami Mayhem?
It gets a thumbs up because it has Lyle Zato on it right off the bat. It has a really good, fantastic Street Herders match on it. Even the Sting and Dusty versus Tully and Arn is really, really good. You can make an argument that Dusty and Sting could have won the titles here too, but they don't. You have that really good Barry and Brad Armstrong match. So you couldn't tell that Crockett's fucking real financial problems right now. You can't tell by watching the TV, that's for sure. And they go on the sale by January, what was it, November of the same year they sell. But you can't really tell that they're having financial issues at this moment. So everything is still looking peachy keen for Jim Crockett Promotions in the NWA. But they wouldn't last. They wouldn't make it into 1989, unfortunately, which is extremely sad.
Yeah, unfortunately. But the fortunate thing is, it is time of it's the time of the show that everybody's been waiting for. What show are we covering in next week's episode of the Retro Wrestling Rewind?
We are going to do Starcade 1989, Future Shock.
Oh, God. Starcade 89, Future Shock. And that features what fine matches on that program?
It has 2 round-robin tournaments, the Iron Team tournament, which is the Steiner Brothers versus Doom versus the Road Warriors versus the Samoans. In addition to that, you have another round robin tournament, which is Luger, Flair, Muda, and Sting. And in addition to that, stuck right in the middle of this thing, we have what do we have in the middle of this thing? Oh, we just have the Iron Man tournament. So again, it just kind of just swings around and around. And you get, it's like 8 guys on this card, but, they're your top guys. So, again, you have the Steiners, Doom, you have the Road Warriors, you have the Samoans, you have Luger, Flair, Muda, and Sting. So, lots of fun stuff there. A lot of interesting finishes on this.
Yeah, I mean, I cannot wait, for that. Definitely next week. But, folks, if you want to follow the show on the Twitter machine, we are at the RW Rewind. And, of course, we are on, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. We have our website at therwrewind.com. And, of course, our big page, davidvinemedia.com. It has links to all our shows on the network. We have a lot of other shows. We have a sailing show. We have a plethora of shows. But, of course, we thank you for listening and tuning in to the Retro Wrestling Rewind. And for the great Alex G., as always, I am David Fine. We will talk to you next week where we talk Starcade 89 Future Shock. We'll talk to you in the past.
238 pounds in the black corner. From St. Louis,
here comes Mr. Crow.
Andre the Giant.
Gonna get his licks in on the bruiser. Hulk Hogan.
Number 1, the greatest WWE champion of all time, and in many ways, the man who made the title what it is today, Bruno Sammartino.
His opponent weighing 236 pounds in the white corner. From Van Nuys, California.